Well, for analysis, let's now chat to political analyst Professor Kedibone Phago to find out what does this mean then for US-South Africa relations. Prof, a very good afternoon to you, or good evening, I should say. I suppose Trump's announcement that he will not attend should come as no surprise, given that, he had cited disapproval of South Africa's domestic and foreign policy positions, particularly its land reform efforts and alignment at the ICJ, as reasons for skipping the event. Your reaction to his latest announcement sending Vice President J.D. Vance instead, a move that South Africa has welcomed?
Good evening, Unati, and good evening to the viewers at home. Thank you for the opportunity. Indeed, I think you are spot on that we are not necessarily that much surprised because, in fact, Trump had indicated that he will not be part of the G20 activities that South Africa is hosting. And I think what we need to remember is that the summit has actually, it's more of a culmination of a range of engagement and the thematic areas that the G20 is currently having in South Africa. So it is, in fact, I think, as the Minister Lamola indicates, something that would be a welcome move to have a U.S. representative at the level of the Vice President. And this is because the U.S. is going to be the next president, is going to host the next presidency of the G20.
Yeah.
So what we also need to remember, yes, Unit.
No, I was going to say, South Africa and the U.S. have to continue working together. South Africa and the U.S. are part of the Troika. How are relations, Prof, with South Africa likely then to continue, do you think, given, too, that South Africa is still to elect a suitable candidate as ambassador there, but the tensions are really wide-ranging. We're talking here about how the U.S. suspended foreign aid, which was not unique to South Africa, of course, but the imposition of tariffs, the expansion of asylum programs for Afrikaners, and those executive orders against South Africa, etc. These are quite contentious issues that South Africa still would need to manage.
So Trump has actually defined the relations between U.S. and South Africa earlier this year when he took over as the U.S. president. And it has been a very bumpy one for South Africa. But I think by and large, South African approach of focusing more on the diplomatic approaches has to a very large extent tried to minimize the frustrations and the tensions. Of course, I agree that we are yet to have an ambassador in the U.S. We are yet to receive a U.S. ambassador also in South Africa to formalize these relations and facilitate our relationship. As you know, we've got a lot of economic dealings we have with the U.S. So it's always going to be an important relationship that would need both sides to come together. But as we rightly know, that the defining of or redefining of the U.S.-South Africa relations by this second Trump administration means that we need to go back to the drawing board and say, how can we make things better for us? Because the reality is that we have got massive U.S. investments in South Africa that have created a lot of jobs that we need to be thinking around when we engage Americans.
And Prof, as we wrap up our conversation, just looking beyond the Trump administration, what institutional or even structural safeguards should South Africa then be pursuing to prevent such a rapid deterioration in bilateral relations, as some have termed it, especially considering trade and investment dependencies, as you've also rightfully pointed out?
Unati, that is fortunately what has transpired with the Trump administration is that he has targeted too many countries to help as one of the quickest safeguards for South Africa and many other developing and even developed nations. So what this means is that many of these countries should then come together and find other alternative markets so that they are not going to find themselves over relying on the bilaterals with US when this has demonstrated to be so much unreliable, especially during the second Trump administration.
Prof, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your analysis. The political analyst, Professor Kedibone Phago, there for us. All right.